Good morning. It's Sunday, the 28th of June, and this is going to be my outlook for the week ahead. We're going to keep it super focused today and just talk about Bitcoin. There are other interesting coins, but for now, I only want to talk about BTC for the purposes of this stream, mostly in the interest of brevity. I don't want to be here for too long. I don't want to waste too much of your time, but I will try not to waste any of your time, and I'll try to make this actually useful. So I'll start off, we'll look at these long-term VWAPs first of all, just as a first port of call, right? So the weekly, last week we opened up bearish, we obviously traded up. I think we talked about this idea of this short. In any case, we traded down, and the downside momentum is neutralized on the weekly, right? So the weekly VWAP has flattened, we traded back inside value. The monthly has kind of developed in a very similar way. We're obviously at the end of the month now. So yes, we are still imbalanced down below monthly value just about. But we opened up bearish, and that bearish momentum has neutralized. On the quarterly and the yearly, we are still trading well below value. The developing periods have remained relatively bearish, with VWAPs pointing down. But what I would say about, once you go imbalanced against quarterly or yearly value, a lot of the move by that point has played out, right? A lot of the energy of the move has been dissipated, and the spectrum of opportunity for continuation is just not there anymore. So, I think the combination of what we can see on the weekly and the monthly, as well as the fact that we're trading below quarterly and yearly value at this point, really leads me to believe that we are honing in on a bottom. I think we're very close to that. So, just looking at the higher time frames, it seems to me, Bitcoin tends to do one or two things when it bottoms. It will either print a double bottom, right? You get some kind of retest, usually a bit of a higher low, or you'll get three drives, right? And I think this structure is lending itself to that, right? So we've had this aggressive move down, a correction, another aggressive move down. Are we going to see another correction here, and a lower high before going lower again? So I think the three drives is likely to play out on a sort of slightly higher time frame basis. I was just looking at it earlier and thinking, well, it might even play out on this sort of medium time frames, but on the higher time frame, I think it makes more sense. So I think we can trade up in the near term. It also looks like we have potential three drives setting up here, right, with these two legs. But I think actually the higher time frame idea is the one I prefer. And that would lend itself to actually this tie getting taken out. So, if we can, for example, trade up into the midpoint of this range, which would be this point of control here. The reason I've labeled it true point of control is because Coinbase was down for some of this time, and I don't think they repopulated the volume data on TradingView. So, the true POC of this range is around 63K, 62.6-ish. That is, a pretty decent candidate area for another high. So it would fill out this imbalance, it would take out this kind of crappy high that we printed on Thursday. And then I would potentially lean for, some kind of fuck you move to open up July before we start trading up. So if we can, today I think we put in a good low here, right? So we traded into a naked daily value VWAP. Sorry, I just need to refresh the stream. Sorry for that. Yeah, so we traded into a naked daily VWAP here. Looks like a pretty good low. We obviously failed to hold inside this 2 days of value, which is Thursday and Friday's value. So it looks like a pretty promising development early this morning for us to trade up, early into the week. So that's how I would lean, potentially to trade into this sort of 63K area, and this is potentially where I'd like to take another short from, and probably the last one for some time. Because at this point, I think, if we put in a lower high here in the third drive, contextual levels here, right? This is where we're looking to bid. Anywhere below this low, around this contextual level, is going to be a good candidate for a bottom, in my opinion. Just also to say on the lower time frames, obviously here we've seen, pretty clear momentum loss to the downside. So very aggressive leg, but this is all sort of rounding out, and there's plenty of absorption into these areas last week. So it's not sustainable when you see this amount of aping in a single direction and people getting rewarded for it. When we see it to the upside, the same thing's going to happen to the downside here. So, everyone piling into shorts here, is not going to last forever. And sentiment on its ass, I saw immediately as soon as we started trading down here on Friday, midweek, Wednesday probably, I saw a 38K call on the timeline. I logged in briefly and saw a 38K call. I was like, okay, this is the kind of nonsense you want to see at a bottom. So yeah, it's not as big as a drawdown we've seen in previous cycles, but we should expect that, right? So I think we're very close. But yeah, my plan right now would be to look for a lower high, somewhere around 63k. Earlier I was thinking, well, maybe it's actually just going to be somewhere around here, which is possible, but I think looking at the higher time frame, this kind of structure makes a lot more sense. So, potentially trading above 63k into quarterly value low again or something like that. There's plenty of confidence in that area, right? So, all of these levels are going to sort of start to trade down a little bit into the monthly open, which is when I think we're going to get bonked, probably. Monthly open volatility to take us down into 57k, and then that area would be a good candidate for a swing long to basically look to ride out for the rest of the next cycle, essentially. Near term, we should probably just look to target 64k, right? The value highs of this range, yearly val. I think once we can get convincingly above yearly val, the bottom is most likely in, i.e. we're probably not going to see another big retracement. But that would be the first upside target, right? So if we can trade 56 to 65 or something like that, 57 to 65, that's a great trade, right? And then beyond that, we have to wait and see again. So that would be my plan. I think this week's going to be really quite fruitful. I think there will be a lot of good opportunities. So looking for this, that in itself would be a pretty sweet one to hit, assuming it looks something like that. And then, as I say, swing longs. So I think we're on the brink of the cyclical bottom, and I'm really not concerned. I'm really not concerned at all. So I think that's about it. So as I say, I'm not active on X a lot at the moment. I am looking at other things as well. There are other coins that are interesting right now too, but I won't share them in this stream today. I am very active in Discord. I may just throw up another quick promo and then shut down joining for some time. I need to figure out my working patterns and exactly how I'm going to approach things going forward. But it'd be good to have some new folks in. Otherwise, have a good rest of your weekend. Have a good next week, and I'll chat to you